In Florida, the Satanic Temple is stepping up to fill school counselor roles after a new law signed by Governor Ron DeSantis allowed religious chaplains in public schools. Yes, you heard that right. It seems the devil is in the details. Quite literally. Lucien Greaves, co-founder of the Satanic Temple, argues that excluding them defies the First Amendment, while DeSantis insists Satanism isn't a religion. So grab your popcorn and suspend your belief as we explore this unexpected twist in the ongoing debate over religious freedom in public school. Let's get into it. This story is from The Hill by Lexi Lonis, published July 8, 2024. So, Aaron, I wanted to ask you, when we're considering constitutional rights and religious freedoms, what are the implications of allowing religious chaplains, including those from non-Christian faiths like Satanism, in the public school setting?
Well, children are very susceptible. They're like little sponges. They believe what they are told, and by trusted adults. There's a reason there's laws around minors and age of consent and things like that, because it's really, really easy to take advantage of kids, whether you intend to or not. And so it's what we teach our kids is really important, because whatever you teach them, it is indoctrination, because they are not old enough to know if they're being indoctrinated or not. Their brains aren't developed yet. So we have to be really, really careful. And so if we start introducing chaplains in schools, children are going to see that as, this religion is right. This person's religion is correct, and I should follow that religion. And that's not something we want to indoctrinate our kids with. We want to indoctrinate our kids with the ability to think critically, to think skeptically, to understand human biases and how to use the scientific method to get around our biases and to understand the way the world works rather than the way our brains think it works. Those are the things that we should be teaching our kids, how to find jobs and all that good stuff. But we should not have religious people in schools. That's not the right place for it. If you want to indoctrinate your kids with religion, do it on your own time, do it on Sunday, do it in church, but don't do it in school. We're paying for school as taxpayers, and having religion in school, it favors one religion over another. And what if I'm not your religion? I don't want my money going towards those kinds of services. Even though in this case, there's no money being spent because the chaplains have to be volunteers. They can't be paid. But I think my point still stands.
That's fair. And I wanted to ask you, Teo, I think that you talked about a little bit about your experience with Satanists, especially since we're talking about the possibility of having Satanist clergy in public school. You want to talk about that a bit more?
I have an interesting story about those guys. Actually, the first time that I read about them, I really disliked the idea because I saw them just as a counterpart to religion, which they actually are. But I was checking that they have their own tenets, they have their own leaders or stuff like that, and I was like, dude, did you really leave your religion to join another pyramidal scheme? But no, actually, they just do this all, one, to mock religion, and two, because they, having all of that, they can legally be a religion, despite them being all or most of them atheists. I work with many Satanists nowadays. Some of them are cool people, others are assholes, so it depends on the person. But I call them otakus of religion because they dress themselves as religious people just to fight against religion, which I think is amazing. And it is something that is actually needed because they show the religious people why there should be no religion with special privileges. I mean, you think it would be enough telling them, hey, look at what is happening in the Middle East. Over there are religions that have the power. But apparently, no, they see that and they want that, but with the religion version, with the Christian version instead over here. So when you have the Satanist temple that they dress as satanic people, that they go with their prayers. I remember when they were fighting to have their own prayer instead of the Christian ones at the beginning of, what was it? When you have judges and all of that. Well, those things. Christians were screaming and they were very anxious because, oh no, they are using weird words, they are cursing us, because they believe that the religion is kind of true and all the magical stuff is real. So having those groups telling people, hey, you cannot go and put your monuments wherever you want, because in that case we can do the same, and we have Baphomet, that is something that you hate, and make them realize, yeah, maybe we do need a separation so that these evil people that we don't like don't do whatever they want in the same way that we do it. And I think that what they are doing is something necessary and good for them. Good for them.
I hear that. I hear that. So, Kara, I was curious to get your thoughts. Governor DeSantis describes Satanism as not a religion and excluded its members from participating in the chaplain program. So, how should governments navigate the inclusion of diverse religious perspectives in public institutions while ensuring fairness and constitutional compliance?
Well, that's a great question. I think I'll answer the second part of your question first. I think the best way to navigate that is to not make attempts to implement or favor one religious belief or group over another. The further that government organizations and policies can stay away from religion, the better. That is my understanding of the law in most cases. But as far as being able to say, well, this is a religion and that is not a religion, that is a legal question that has come up. There is legal precedent for that. It's a little bit murky. I think one of the ways that it's been defined is something is a religion if it functions as a religion to the person who is practicing it. So, by that definition, I think certainly Satanism and the Satanic Temple would obviously fall under that definition, and I think under most others that are commonly used when we're talking about sincerely held beliefs, about issues of ultimate concern, people's beliefs about questions of meaning of life, death, and so on. And there is absolutely no precedent for suggesting that something is not religious because it is not theistic. That is certainly not the case. There are plenty of non-theistic religions besides the Satanic Temple, Buddhism, Taoism. That is not an excluding factor. So I think it is actually fairly an absurd claim to dismiss out of hand the Satanic Temple as not a religious group. I think that anyone making that claim is going to have a difficult road ahead of them. And the problem with that is that I think it reveals the motivation here, which is not to introduce a program where children can have access to chaplains who represent them or are going to be reflecting their beliefs, but rather I think this is intentionally trying to institute a program where certain religious beliefs and representatives of certain religious faiths are going to be allowed in and not others. That has been explicitly stated by these remarks. And the problem with that is that is illegal. Did that answer your question?
It did. And I kind of just wanted to just interject that the only entity's definition of that matters about what is considered a religion is the IRS. Reason being is because the IRS, through legal tax code, has there's laws in place basically on how you're supposed to treat religious organizations specifically in the United States. And according to the IRS, what constitutes as a religion is a religious organization may be properly characterized as a church. The service considers whether the organization has the following characteristics: a distinct legal existence, a recognized creed and form of worship, and a definite and distinct ecclesiastical tenet. And if you really look at the Satanic Temple, they have all of those things. So who's to say that they are not a religion? Now, whether if you agree with the existence, the tenets, the practices of a religion is one thing, but that's very subjective. If there are specific definitions that would constitute a religious organization, a church per se, in order for this organization to exist and be able to live under that particular tax code, it's not up to you, it's not up to I, and it's not up to DeSantis. It's up to the IRS. And those laws have already been placed. So So, Aaron, I want to know from you, what are the potential benefits and drawbacks of introducing chaplains from various religious backgrounds into public schools? I know you talked about indoctrination and kids not necessarily having the wherewithal to even tell if they've been indoctrinated or not. So do you happen to see a drawback from this? Do you see a benefit from this? And why or why not?
I think I don't really see a benefit here. I think this is a way of sneaking religion into schools. The people that are, when you do it, you have to be a volunteer. You don't get paid. So there are certain rules. If you look at the House Bill 931, it requires these volunteers to pass a background check. Students have to have written permission from their parents to engage with a chaplain. The school has to publish a list of the chaplains and the religious affiliations to the school's website, and that's probably just to make sure that you're sending your kid to the right Christian chaplain. And each district has to have a prescribed way that chaplains will be used to support for support services or programs. They have to define how chaplains are going to be used. But even giving all those, on the surface, oh, that's fine. There seems to be some kind of restrictions, but BS. This is just a way of getting religion in schools. This is just a way of getting people to preach Jesus, preach the Abrahamic God at schools. If somebody wanted to send an Islamic preacher to the schools, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. This is definitely a Christian thing. And like I said earlier, if people really want, if they're trying to solve a problem here, like let's strongman their reason. Like kids need help in school, right? Kids need chaplain, they need guidance. Well, then why don't you give them money so they can hire counselors, right? That's solving the problem in a non-religious, in a secular way. Let's solve the real problem here. Why don't you fund schools? Why don't you pay teachers better? Why don't you give teachers better budgets so they can have better lessons and have better equipment and reduce class sizes and all that stuff? This is, on the surface, it seems like, oh, we're trying to help students, but they're not really. They're not doing anything that would actually help in any measurable way students in any way. If they really wanted to help students, they would get licensed therapists, licensed counselors into schools that nobody would have any problem with kids engaging, and you wouldn't need parent signatures.
Aaron, you almost talk like people who are making this stuff up have sense. But Kara, I want to know from you, the Satanic Temple itself actually claims that Florida law is allowing chaplains, cannot exclude them, right? They're saying, like, if you're going to have like chaplains inside the school, you have to be inclusive to all religious organizations that happen to exist here, them being one of them. So how should states balance the rights of religious minorities with public sentiment and legal precedent regarding the established cause?
Well, I think there's a real easy way to do that, and that is to not introduce programs like these into schools. Just don't
what?
do it.
You said what?
Right. I mean, that's almost too simple. If you don't want to have to compete with other religious beliefs that contradict your own, don't try and introduce your own. Then you won't have a problem. People can practice whatever they want to at home. People can practice whatever they want to in public. But when you start introducing it as part of the public school system or some other government-run event, now you're sanctioning one set of beliefs that may be directly in conflict with someone else's. And that's the reason for the problem. It's not just that, oh, I want to have the right to express my beliefs. Well, you do. What you don't have the right to do is express your beliefs over and above and on top of everyone else's and condemn and forbid other people from having their other beliefs, which is what this kind of thing functionally does. So yeah, the real easy way to avoid that problem is to not do it.
Again, like Aaron, Kara, you act like the people who are introducing these things have sense. But Teo, want to know from you. With states actually increasingly considering legislation to introduce religious teachings like the Bible, I believe that Ryan Walters wanted to make the Bible in Oklahoma's public schools part of the lesson plans. Like, you have to do it. And then also, too, we have the case in Louisiana with the 10 Commandments having to go into every public school classroom, stating from the governor that if you want to talk about the law, you must first give credence to the lawgiver.
And don't forget Texas.
Yes.
And their curriculum that comes from the Bible-based curriculum that they're paying school districts to roll out. You can never not talk about Texas, especially on this show. Don't mess with Texas.
Don't mess with Texas. But, I'm curious, Teo, I know that you are in Latin America, but how should states actually balance the rights of religious minorities with the public and make sure that they're actually, being more inclusive when it comes to, those who happen to have a religious background and those who don't have a religious background?
Yeah, I was going to say, you are asking the Latin guy to talk about the USA?
I am. I am.
I think that what you're asking is in general how this could be solved, because this could help all countries all over the world. And actually, there is a very simple solution. Get atheists to teach this. Get anyone who doesn't have a specific religion teaching about all religions in the same way. And I think that, yeah, it would be great to have every single child learning about all religions in the same way that they should learn as myths that some people believe to be true. And you should get somebody who is clearly not going to say, and this is the only real religion. No, get an atheist. We believe that all religions are fairy tales, so we're going to be fair to all of them. And we're going to say, yeah, Muslims believe that Allah is the only God that has no children, but Christians believe that Jesus is the Son of God, so therefore that is a contradiction, but they are both based on the same God from the Abrahamic religion. And then you can talk about Abraham and the stuff that they believed back then about Babylon, and, all those myths that have been dragging until nowadays. And yeah, that's how you get people who know about religion and who realizes that, hey, so what my parents believe is not the only thing that people believe out there. There are other things, other that makes more sense or even less sense. And that would be great for every teenager out there, according to me.
Yeah, so guys, I just did like a quick ask of my residential AI, specifically what in the world are the responsibilities of a school chaplain? Like, what specifically are they supposed to do? Even though this is a voluntary position according to the law that was introduced and signed by DeSantis. Like, why? Like, what are the whys behind the chaplains, right? And according to my AI, it said that a school chaplain's responsibilities can vary depending on the school, but they generally support the social, emotional, mental, and spiritual well-being of students and the school community. And one of the things that I wanted to read specifically, the portions that it talked about for religious pastoral care and also student advising. So according to this, it says that chaplains can provide counseling and engage students in structured programs to help with self-esteem, build confidence, and develop skills in relationships. And they can also help students deal with issues like family conflict, anxiety, anger, bullying, grief, and loss. And then another one I found very interesting when it comes to student advising, it said that chaplains can meet with individual students and run small group programs on topics like resilience, friendship, and anger. Oh, and one more thing it said too, it has other responsibilities. It says the chaplains may also coach, land retreats, and be visible, safe adults during break times. So my question to all of you, and this a quick response. I'm going to start from Kara, then Teo, then Aaron. Does this really mean that a chaplain in this case, when we're looking at their responsibilities and their and the things that they are and their expectations, does this have to be a religious position? Kara?
No, I don't think it does. That description certainly doesn't have to be religious. It really, there wasn't much religious about that description. I think this is a way to smuggle religion in and create a situation where you can have chaplains who come from, if all of the chaplains come from a very particular spiritual belief system, that may seep into these other services that they're providing. But if, on the other hand, chaplains are coming from all different backgrounds and belief systems, secular, humanist, Satanist, Christian, Muslim, Jewish, whatever else, then children could go to whichever one suited them. But I think the main difference is that it's whether or not you create a situation where a certain spiritual worldview is sneaking in or not.
I gotcha. What about you, Tavio? What do you think?
Yeah, what you mentioned is a counselor. That's not a religious position. If you have somebody there, you actually want somebody who is as secure as possible, because trust me, there is nothing worse than telling somebody, I have a lot of problems. Oh, do you pray? No, I don't believe in any God. Don't worry, I will pray for you. That's the shittiest answer that you can get, and sadly, it's the most common one that you're going to get. And if you have a chaplain that is going to be there for you to answer your questions, you're not going to get real help. You're just going to get religious propaganda, and that's it.
I agree. And we giving the last word to Aaron. What say you?
Yeah, there's a reason you can't get a license to be a therapist or counselor just because you're Christian or Jewish or Islamic. They just don't do it. You have to go and get training. When you were reading off that list of what chaplains do, in my head I'm thinking, a Christian chaplain doing that? No, say no. I'm just Christianity. I grew up Christian, and they teach you that you're a sinner. That you're by default, that you're broken and that you're awful and that you need Jesus. And they use, many people point out, it's kind of abusive language. Like you're only good if Jesus is in your life. And chaplains, that's what they're, if you let them into school, when they help people, that's what they're going to do, because that's what they know. They're going to teach you about Jesus and that you're awful and that you need Jesus. And that's not what we need. What we need is evidence-based help for kids, to help them manage their emotions, manage their problems, manage their home lives if they need it, manage stress, all those things. And there are healthy ways of doing that. And that's why we need people that are licensed, that have been trained and understand how the human brain and emotions work, that can help kids out.
I agree. And if you, dear viewer and dear listener, want to help your emotions in your brain, listen to more nonprofits by clicking here.